The king eats beef Wellington, you eat Iceland frozen lasagna. But here is the thing nobody tells you. The actual difference between a royal dinner and yours is not the budget, it is the technique. Number 17 on this list turns a £2 bag of supermarket carrots into something they literally serve at Buckingham Palace garden parties. And number 6 was used by royal household chefs for decades before anyone wrote it down. These 25 tricks come from professional kitchens, wartime ingenuity, and the kind of quiet British cleverness that food companies pray you never learn. Because if you knew how to make cheap ingredients taste expensive, you would stop buying their £6 ready meals tonight. Supermarkets do not want you in the kitchen. They want you in the frozen aisle. Before we start, hit that subscribe button, because what you are about to learn could cut your food bill in half without sacrificing a single ounce of flavor. Let us count down the 25 secret tricks to eating like royalty on a pensioner's budget. Number 25. The overnight oat soak. The Queen Mother reportedly started every morning with porridge made from oats soaked overnight. Not the instant stuff from a sachet. Proper pinhead oats left in cold water or milk from the evening before. The soaking broke down the starches slowly, creating a creamier, silkier porridge without adding cream or butter. You would wake up, set the pot on the hob, and in 10 minutes have something that tasted like it belonged in a country house hotel. A kilo bag of pinhead oats costs about 89 pence from Aldi and lasts a fortnight. Compare that to those little instant porridge pots at £1.20 each. The overnight soak also made oats easier to digest and released more nutrients. Your grandmother knew this. She never rushed porridge. She respected it. The microwave generation lost that patience and gained a worse breakfast. One night of planning gives you a morning meal that tastes 3 times the price. Number 24. Brown the butter first. This one trick separates a £2 piece of fish from a £22 restaurant dish. Instead of melting butter and cooking in it, you let it go further. Keep it on medium heat until the milk solids turn golden brown and the kitchen fills with a nutty, almost biscuity smell. That is beurre noisette. The French gave it a fancy name, but British cooks have been doing this since rationing ended and butter came back. Brown butter on mashed potatoes turns them into something velvet and rich. Drizzled over steamed white fish with a squeeze of lemon, you have got a dish that rivals anything at a riverside gastropub. A block of butter costs about £1.85. This technique adds 0 extra cost. It just requires 90 seconds of patience and the nerve to let butter go past the point where most people panic and pull the pan off the heat. Number 23. The stock bag in the freezer. Every royal kitchen keeps a stock pot simmering. You cannot do that in a terraced house in Doncaster, but you can do this. Keep a freezer bag, and every time you peel a carrot, trim a celery stick, or pull the skin off an onion, drop the scraps in. Chicken carcasses from a roast, prawn shells, parsley stalks, the woody ends of mushrooms. All of it goes in. When the bag is full, tip everything into a large pot, cover with water, add a bay leaf and a few peppercorns, and simmer for 2 hours. Strain it. You have got stock that Waitrose charges £3 a tub for, and yours is better because it is made from real ingredients, not reconstituted powder and salt. That stock transforms everything: risotto, gravy, soup, even just cooking rice in it instead of plain water. The cost is literally 0. You were going to throw those scraps in the bin. Now they are the foundation of every meal for the week. Number 22. Dry brining meat the night before. Here is why a £4 supermarket chicken can taste like a £16 free-range bird. The night before you roast it, pat it dry with kitchen roll and rub coarse salt all over the skin. Leave it uncovered in the fridge overnight. The salt draws moisture out. Then the meat reabsorbs it, seasoning the flesh deep inside. The skin dries out in the fridge air, which means it crisps up golden and crackling in the oven. This is exactly what professional kitchens do. No basting, no fuss, just time and salt. A box of Malden sea salt costs about £2.50 and lasts months. The technique works on pork chops, lamb shoulders, even a cheap brisket. You are not adding expense. You are adding 12 hours of patience. The result is meat that tastes like it came from a proper butcher, not the reduced section at Morrison's. Number 21. Tin foil baked potatoes. Baked potatoes at a Jacket potato van cost £5 with filling. At home, most people just stab them and shove them in the oven for an hour. The trick the professionals use is to rub the skin with oil and flaky salt, then wrap in foil for the first 40 minutes before removing the foil for the final 20. The foil stage steams the inside fluffy and soft. The uncovered stage crisps the skin until it crackles. The result is a baked potato with the texture of a twice-cooked chip on the outside and a cloud on the inside. King Charles reportedly has Jacket potatoes at Highgrove served with proper butter and chives. You can replicate that for about 35 pence per potato. The secret was never the filling, it was always the technique. Number 20. Slow roast cheap cuts on a Sunday. A sirloin joint costs £14 or more. A beef brisket or pork shoulder costs £4 to £6. The difference is time. Cheap cuts are tough because they have more connective tissue. But 4 hours at 140 degrees Celsius in a covered roasting tin with a splash of stock transforms that tissue into gelatin. The meat falls apart. It tastes richer, more complex, and more tender than expensive cuts cooked fast. Royal kitchens have always used slow methods for large gatherings. It is not peasant food dressed up. It is the science of patience applied to economy. A pork shoulder slow roasted with garlic, fennel seeds, and a tin of cider produces a Sunday roast that feeds 6 people for under a £5. The leftovers make Monday sandwiches that your colleagues will ask about. First pattern break. Here is where things shift. That tin of chopped tomatoes sitting in your cupboard, the one that costs 35 pence, is the most underused ingredient in the British kitchen. Most people dump it into a pan and call it sauce. But if you cook it down slowly for 25 minutes with a crushed garlic clove, a glug of olive oil, a pinch of sugar, and a torn basil leaf, something remarkable happens. The water evaporates, the sugars concentrate, the acid mellows. You end up with a rich, sweet, deeply savory sauce that Italian grandmothers would nod at with approval. This is the base for pasta, pizza, shakshuka, braised chicken, or spooned over grilled fish. Restaurant kitchens call it a passata reduction and charge £16 for the pasta it sits under. Your version costs 50 pence in ingredients and 25 minutes of gentle simmering. We stopped making proper tomato sauce when jars of dolmio promised convenience. But convenience cost us flavour and about £2.80 per jar. Number 18. Rendered chicken fat. When you roast a chicken, fat collects in the bottom of the roasting tin. Most people pour it down the sink or bin it. That fat is liquid gold. Strain it through a sieve into a jar and refrigerate it. Use it to roast potatoes, fry eggs, or sauté vegetables. Chicken fat has a higher smoke point than butter and adds a savoury depth that olive oil cannot touch. Jewish grandmothers called it schmaltz and built entire cuisines around it. British grandmothers just called it common sense. Potatoes roasted in chicken fat come out golden, crispy, and deeply flavoured. It costs nothing because you already paid for the chicken. You are just stopping waste and gaining flavour. A jar keeps in the fridge for a month. 2 roast chickens give you enough fat to cook with for weeks. Number 17. The Royal Carrot Glaze. This is the Buckingham Palace garden party trick. Take cheap supermarket carrots, peel and slice them, then cook in a covered pan with a tablespoon of butter, a teaspoon of sugar, a pinch of salt, and just enough water to barely cover the bottom. Cook on medium heat with the lid on until tender, then remove the lid and let the liquid reduce until it turns into a glossy, buttery glaze that coats every piece. The carrots turn sweet, shiny, and golden. They look and taste like something from a Michelin-starred restaurant. Total cost for a family portion is about 40 pence. This technique is called glazing, and every professional kitchen uses it. The vegetables are not boiled into submission. They are coaxed into elegance. It works on parsnips, turnips, and baby beetroot too. You are not buying better ingredients. You are just treating cheap ones with respect. Number 16. Day-old bread croutons. Bread going stale is not waste. It is an opportunity. Tear it into rough chunks, toss with olive oil, salt, garlic powder, and dried herbs. Spread on a baking tray and toast at 180 degrees for 12 minutes. You have got croutons better than anything in those overpriced bags at Sainsbury's. Scatter them over soup, and suddenly a 40p tin of tomato soup becomes a proper lunch. Toss them into a Caesar salad, and you have got a restaurant starter. Blitz stale bread in a food processor, and you have got breadcrumbs for coating fish, topping gratins, or binding meatballs. A loaf costs about £1.15. Using every slice, including the stale ones, stretches that investment across 3 or 4 extra meals. Royal households famously waste nothing in the kitchen. This is the simplest version of that principle. Every crumb earns its keep. Number 15. One-pot rice absorption method. Stop boiling rice in a massive pan of water and draining it. That method washes away starch and flavor. Instead, use the absorption method. 1 cup of rice, 1.5 cups of stock, bring to the boil, stir once, cover tightly, reduce to the lowest heat for 12 minutes, then leave the lid on for another 5. Every grain comes out separate, fluffy, and seasoned all the way through because it absorbed that stock instead of plain water. This is how rice is cooked in every professional kitchen and every royal banquet hall. The rice tastes like it belongs on the plate rather than sitting there as an afterthought. A kilo of basmati costs about £1.70 and serves 10 portions. With proper technique, even the cheapest grain performs beautifully. Second pattern break. Now, here is where the supermarkets really get nervous. That whole chicken you bought for £4.50 should give you 4 meals, not 1. Meal 1, roast dinner. Meal 2, cold chicken sandwiches from the leftovers. Meal 3, strip every remaining scrap from the carcass, shred it, and stir through pasta with that 35p tomato sauce from Trick 19. Meal 4, boil the carcass with your freezer scrap bag to make stock, then use that stock for soup with whatever vegetables are in the fridge. 4 meals from 1 bird. That is £1.12 per meal for the whole family. The royal household at Balmoral uses every part of every animal shot on the estate. The principle is the same whether you are feeding a castle or a council flat. Waste nothing, stretch everything. Eat like you mean it. Number 13, herb butter logs. When herbs start wilting in the fridge, chop them fine and mash into softened butter with a pinch of salt and a squeeze of lemon. Roll the mixture into a log using cling film, twist the ends tight, and freeze. Slice off a coin whenever you need instant flavor. A disc of parsley butter melting over grilled fish transforms a £1.50 fillet into something elegant. Garlic and rosemary butter on a lamb chop. Chive butter on a baked potato. Tarragon butter stirred into mashed potato. Each slice costs pennies and adds restaurant-quality finishing. You have saved herbs from the bin and created a luxury ingredient from scraps. A single bunch of parsley costs 65p. Mixed with 50p worth of butter, you have got 10 servings of compound butter that would cost £3 in a deli. Number 12. The cold water pastry trick. Homemade pastry terrifies people. It should not. The only secret is temperature. Use cold butter, cut into small cubes. Use ice-cold water, a tablespoon at a time. Handle the dough as little as possible. The cold keeps the fat in distinct little pockets, and when those pockets hit the oven heat, they create steam, which creates flaky layers. That is it. That is the entire mystery. Flour costs 65p a bag. Butter costs £1.85. For about 40p, you have enough pastry for a pie that would cost £5 from the bakery. Chicken and leek pie, steak and ale pie, a simple cheese and onion plate pie. Each one looks and tastes homemade because it is, and homemade always beats factory-made. Royal pastry chefs guard their recipes, but the physics of flaky pastry is the same in a palace kitchen and a pensioner's. Number 11. Marinating in yogurt. A pot of natural yogurt costs about 55p. Rub it over chicken thighs with garlic, cumin, turmeric, and a pinch of chili. Leave for 2 hours or overnight. The lactic acid in the yogurt tenderizes the meat while the spices penetrate deep into the flesh. Bake at 200 degrees, and the yogurt forms a golden, almost charred crust, while the meat stays impossibly juicy inside. This is the principle behind tandoori chicken, and it works on lamb, pork, even cauliflower. Chicken thighs cost about £2 for a pack of 6. Marinated in yogurt and spices, they outperform a £12 restaurant curry. The yogurt does the work of expensive marinades and tenderizers. You just need to plan a few hours ahead. Number 10. The mirepoix base. Every French and British royal kitchen starts sauces, soups and stews the same way. Dice onion, carrot and celery into small, even pieces. Cook slowly in butter or oil until soft and sweet, about 10 minutes. This base, called a mirepoix, builds a foundation of flavor that makes everything taste richer and more complex. Without it, soup tastes thin, stew tastes flat, gravy tastes one-dimensional. An onion costs 15 pence, a carrot costs 10 pence, a celery stick costs about 8 pence. For 33 pence and 10 minutes, you have transformed a basic meal into something with genuine depth. Most home cooks skip this step because recipes say things like sauté onion for 2 minutes. 2 minutes is not enough. Give it 10. Let the sugars develop. Let the vegetables soften into the background. That patience is the difference between eating and dining. Third pattern break. This is where we talk about eggs. A dozen free-range eggs cost about £2.80. That is 23 pence each. For that money, you can make a French omelette that takes 90 seconds and tastes like silk. 3 eggs, a knob of butter, salt, pepper. Beat the eggs lightly. Melt butter in a non-stick pan until foaming. Pour in the eggs. Stir with a fork for 30 seconds while shaking the pan. Fold and slide onto a plate. The center should be barely set, creamy and soft. Add a handful of grated cheese, and you have a 70 pence dinner that any chef in London would respect. Eggs are the great equalizer. They do not care about your postcode. A perfectly cooked egg is a perfectly cooked egg, whether it lands on bone china at Sandringham or a chipped plate in a bedsit in Burnley. Number 8. Blooming spices in hot oil. Do not just sprinkle ground spices into food. Heat a tablespoon of oil in the pan first, then add the spices for 30 seconds until they sizzle and release their fragrance. This is called blooming, and it unlocks flavor compounds that stay dormant in dry powder. Cumin smells nutty. Coriander smells citrusy. Turmeric turns the oil a vivid gold. That 30 seconds of blooming transforms a 50 pence tin of chickpeas into something that tastes like it came from a proper curry house. The spices themselves cost pennies per serving. A jar of cumin lasts months. Blooming is how every Indian restaurant starts every dish, and it costs nothing extra. You are just applying heat at the right moment. Number 7. Deglazing the pan. After you fry meat, there are brown, sticky bits clinging to the bottom of the pan. Most people soak it and scrub it off. That is a tragedy. Those brown bits are fond, concentrated flavor created by the Maillard reaction. Pour a splash of wine, stock, or even water into the hot pan and scrape with a wooden spoon. Everything dissolves into an instant sauce. Add a knob of butter and you have got a pan sauce that restaurants charge £4 extra for. This is how every professional kitchen works. Every pan gets deglazed, every drop of flavor gets captured. A £2.50 bottle of cooking wine gives you 15 deglazes. That is 17 pence per sauce that transforms a pork chop or chicken breast from ordinary to extraordinary. Number 6. Resting meat properly. This trick was used in royal kitchens long before anyone wrote it in a cookbook. After cooking any piece of meat, from a £2 chicken breast to a £30 rib of beef, let it rest on a warm plate for half the time it took to cook. A chicken breast cooked for 20 minutes rests for 10. During that time, the muscle fibers relax and reabsorb their juices. Cut too soon, and those juices run out onto the board. The meat goes dry. Cut after resting, and every bite is juicy, tender, and properly seasoned throughout. This costs nothing. It requires nothing but a plate and patience. Yet most home cooks skip it because they are hungry and impatient. That impatience is the single biggest reason homemade meat disappoints. 5 minutes of waiting gives you a result that no amount of money can buy if you skip it. Number 5. Finishing with acid. When a dish tastes flat and you cannot figure out why, it almost never needs more salt. It needs acid. A squeeze of lemon juice, a splash of vinegar, even a spoonful of the pickle jar liquid. Acid brightens every other flavor in the dish. Stew becomes more savory. Roasted vegetables taste sweeter. Even mashed potatoes wake up with a tiny squeeze of lemon. This is the final adjustment that separates home cooking from professional cooking. Restaurant chefs taste and adjust with acid before every dish leaves the pass. A lemon costs 30 pence and transforms 10 meals. White wine vinegar costs about £1 and lasts 6 months. You already have the ingredients. You just need to use them at the end rather than the beginning. Number 4. Soaking onions in cold water. When you want raw onion in a salad or sandwich, but the harsh bite makes your eyes water just thinking about it, slice the onion thin and soak in cold water for 15 minutes. The water draws out the sulfur compounds that cause the sharpness, leaving behind sweet, mild, crunchy rings that taste like pickled onion without the vinegar. Drain, pat dry, and scatter over anything. A raw onion costs 12 pence. After soaking, it becomes a garnish that makes a cheese sandwich taste like a ploughman's from a country pub. This is standard practice in every restaurant kitchen. No chef serves raw onion straight from the knife. They all soak first. 15 minutes and cold water turn a 12 pence ingredient into something refined. Number 3. Salting aubergine and courgette. Watery vegetables ruin dishes. Slice aubergine or courgette, sprinkle with salt, and leave in a colander for 30 minutes. The salt draws out excess moisture. Pat dry and cook. The vegetables now fry properly instead of steaming in their own water. They caramelize, they brown, they develop deep savory flavor instead of going soggy and limp. This was standard practice in every British kitchen until the 1990s, when recipe writers started claiming modern varieties did not need it. They were wrong. Salting still makes an enormous difference. A courgette costs about 60 pence. Treated properly, it performs like a £3 restaurant side dish. Without salting, it tastes like warm water in vegetable form. Number 2. Making gravy from scratch. Gravy granules are a con. After roasting meat, pour off most of the fat from the roasting tin, but keep all those brown bits. Set the tin on the hob over medium heat. Sprinkle in a tablespoon of plain flour and stir for 1 minute. Then gradually add hot stock, stirring constantly. The gravy thickens, turns glossy, and tastes of actual meat. The whole process takes 4 minutes. A bag of flour costs 65 pence and makes gravy for a year. Bisto charges £2.50 for instant granules that taste of salt and food coloring. Proper gravy made in the roasting tin is what separates a Sunday dinner you remember from one you endure. Royal households would never allow granules near a roasting tin. Neither should you. Number 1. The bread and butter pudding principle. The single greatest trick in all of British cooking is this: never throw anything away. Stale bread becomes bread and butter pudding, croutons or breadcrumbs. Leftover roast becomes sandwiches, then stock. Vegetable peelings become broth. Herb stalks become butter. Chicken fat becomes roasting gold. Overripe bananas become banana bread. Soft tomatoes become sauce. This is not poverty thinking. This is how every royal kitchen, every Michelin-starred restaurant, and every wise grandmother has always operated. Waste nothing. Respect everything. The average British household throws away £60 of food every month. That is £720 a year in the bin. Master these 25 tricks and that number drops to nearly nothing. You eat better, you spend less, you cook smarter. That is the real secret. Eating like royalty was never about spending more. It was about knowing more. And now, you know. Try one trick this week. Start with the stock bag, or the brown butter, or the deglazed pan. Then come back and tell me which one changed your kitchen. I want to hear it.